If you and your husband feel like roommates just existing under the same roof, this video is definitely for you. What I am about to share, these 5 signs, they're not just warning signs, they're the exact patterns that lead couples to wake up one day feeling like total strangers. The women that I work with, they tell me that they downplay these patterns for years until they barely recognize their marriages anymore. And number 5, this is something so many women do to protect themselves, but it's actually creating more distance and disconnection than you even realize. I am Lindsay. This is Loving with Intention. Let's dive in because if you recognize any of these patterns, it is the perfect time to start addressing them before you drift further apart. And here is something super important to understand. You don't need all of these signs to be heading toward a roommate relationship. Even one of these patterns, if it's showing up consistently, that's enough to start that slow drift apart. And here's what usually happens. When I ask couples in crisis when things started going wrong in their relationship, they'll often tell me about big events that happen, like a big move, a job change, having kids, a huge fight, external stressors. And here's the thing that's super interesting. These often aren't actually the starting points. They're often the breaking points. Of course, challenging times increase stress in our relationships for sure. And the real breakdown, it's actually happening in tiny everyday moments that we usually don't recognize. These signs that I'm sharing, these happen so innocently in our relationships because everything else ends up taking priority and our relationship gets the last of our time and energy. So we want to bring in so much love and compassion around this because this is super common for this to happen. Before we dive into these signs in just a sec, I 10 out of 10 recommend popping the word super in the comments to grab my free guide that shows you how to do this superpowered appreciation to rebuild connection. This isn't just a thank you, it's a specific framework that starts getting you out of the roommate territory. It is something that I use in my relationship at least once a day. I will tell you more about it at the end because it is time to get to these signs. You can pop super in the comments to grab it now though. So, the signs. The first sign that you are in a roommate relationship, this shows up in your evening routine. Just picture this, it is 8 p.m. on a typical Monday. You are both home after a long day at work. You had a super busy weekend, and now you are sitting on opposite ends of the couch. You're scrolling Instagram and texting your friends. He's checking sports scores. You've got Netflix on in the background, but it's kind of just background noise. Neither of you are really paying attention. Yes, you are together, but you're emotionally disconnected. And of course, vegging out on your phones can totally be exactly what you need sometimes, turning off the external world, just getting lost in it. And when this is happening most evenings of the week, it's a sign you shouldn't ignore. Being in the same room doesn't count as quality time together. I have had clients tell me that this has been a pattern for years in their relationships, which makes all the sense in our phone addicted world. I know that my phone is pretty much always beside me. It's hard to ignore notifications when they come through. These phones and screens, they end up becoming this kind of buffer, like an easy way to be in the same space with your husband without having to navigate the distance that's growing between you two. If you can remember when evenings meant like being together, you would share stories, you would laugh about your day, you would snuggle up and actually watch the show that was on, that is connection. Our phones can totally pull us away from each other, and the disconnection doesn't stop there. The second sign that you are in a roommate relationship shows up in daily interactions, like, can you grab the milk on the way home? Or don't forget that Sophie has soccer tonight. Did you schedule that dentist appointment? On the surface, these things can look like great communication. You are coordinating things, you're managing life together. And here's what happens beneath the surface. Your relationship has shifted from being partners, loving partners, to like project managers. Your conversations, they become totally transactional. And again, it makes so much sense that they do. There is so much to manage in our daily lives, especially if you have kids. The to-do lists are endless. I know that mine is. And if we think back to when you fell in love, you talked about everything. You talked about your dreams, your fears, stories from the past, the wild ideas you had for the future. But now these conversations can feel almost awkward to bring up. When was the last time you asked your husband what he would love to accomplish in the next 5 years? Or what's one thing that he's felt super excited about lately? One of my clients had a realization. There's been a hair in my mouth for a very long time. One of my clients, she had a realization on one of our calls that she knew more about her friends' hopes and dreams than her husband. Not because she didn't care, but because they'd fallen into this pattern of discussing only what needed to be discussed. This is so common. Another client recently just shared that she actually didn't know how to bring up anything other than how was the day and logistics. She said that it felt really forced and awkward. And again, This is because they're in a pattern that is a sign of something deeper and that we can change. And these surface level conversations, these actually meld right in with the third sign that you're in a roommate relationship. Have you ever felt like you're just living parallel lives? You're both busy, working hard, doing your own things. I have heard we're like two ships passing in the night from so many couples. You have different hobbies, different interests, you like different shows. And if you're really honest with yourself, you probably zone out when your husband's telling you about the sports game that he was into or a story from work, just like he might when you're sharing about your day. I would be so curious if someone offered you a weekend trip right now. Would you be most excited about a girls' getaway or a weekend alone with your husband? There is absolutely nothing wrong with a weekend with the girls. Obviously, it's healthy, it's important. And if the thought of 48 uninterrupted hours with your husband feels more awkward or boring than exciting, that's telling you something important about your relationship and your connection. The more parallel that your lives run, the harder it becomes to find those connection points that are crucial for a thriving relationship. And speaking of connection points, the fourth sign is about physical touch, but not in the way that you might think. Just think back to when physical touch was natural, like a hand on your back when you pass by in the kitchen, or you are holding hands when you're watching TV, or you have those really big hugs that you can just melt into. As always, this is not about assigning blame. When we are stressed and busy, feeling disconnected, physical touch is often the first thing that becomes really mechanical. You do a quick goodbye peck, a quick little side hug. You're going through the motions of the physical touch, but it doesn't have the meaning behind it. And the less that you engage in these small touches, the more awkward they actually feel, creating this cycle that keeps pushing us further apart. This is a sign worth paying attention to, for sure. And yes, things might feel awkward, but even more than that, you might find yourself tensing up when your husband reaches out for you. He can feel you pulling away, so he starts trying less and less because that rejection really hurts. And if you are a husband who's here right now, because I know there are so many wonderful men who are here, it can be super easy to hear me say this and think, that's exactly what she does. She's the problem. This is what we do, all men and women. We tend to focus in our relationships on what our partner is doing that's leading to disconnection, which makes so much sense because we want to feel loved and connected and seen. We want things to get better. This is a loving invitation in anything I ever share that resonates, whether you're the husband or the wife, to recognize that it lands with you. Acknowledge and validate your hurt feelings around it because they are so important, and turn your focus and energy back towards yourself. Loving with intention, ding, 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 means that we're looking at how we're contributing to what's not working, how we can change and grow, and how we can help our relationship thrive. When we see a pattern in our partner that hurts us, we get to get curious about our own role. And this isn't just about the physical piece. I just know that this one hits a lot of male clients, so I thought I would take a little minute to digress. But this applies to everything. My whole channel is about empowering yourself to create change. And while I just speak to women, it's exactly what I do when working with men too. It is such an opportunity to grow, to lean in and see what we can do. Which leads us to the fifth sign, and this might be the most tender one to talk about because it comes from a place of, a deep place of self-protection. Ladies, you might relate to this sign if you have ever found yourself sneaking off to bed before your husband and pretending to be asleep when he comes to bed. And I want to pause and just hold so much space for why this happens. These aren't manipulative choices, they're protective ones. When women find themselves creating physical distance like this, it's often because somewhere along the way, the emotional safety and security in their marriage has been lost. Maybe the moments of feeling unseen, unheard, or misunderstood have just piled up and up and up so high over the years. Maybe there's conversations that need to happen, but they feel way too vulnerable to even start because there is so much evidence that these conversations don't go well. Maybe there are deep hurts that have happened in your relationship that haven't been talked about, repaired, or healed. These are all under the surface. These things and so much more contribute to pulling away from sex and intimacy and are a sign that you are more in that roommate territory, that you're leaning towards that territory. And I mentioned the things that happen within your relationship. Oh my gosh, there are truly so many more things. I'm going to link the video in the description box that I did on so many reasons why women pull away from sex. It could be beyond your marriage. And these things we get to look at with so much compassion. So for the ladies, if you recognize yourself in this sign, please know that you are so not alone. Many women have shared with me how they cringe when their husband touches them and they lie awake in the dark. They feel the weight of the loneliness, the guilt, and the sadness because they know it doesn't make their husband feel good. And they have so much fear of reaching out. They're scared that one touch is going to lead to more. They fill their evening with tasks and distractions. They try to time their bedtime to avoid those quiet moments where vulnerability feels so risky. Again, these patterns are not intentional or about being difficult or unloving. They're about a heart that's trying to navigate, trying its best to navigate the disconnection and the things that have happened in your relationship. And if you are the husband here, I have also heard from men how painful this is to be on the receiving end of, which makes all of the sense in the whole entire world. I totally see you. It can feel confusing. It can feel like intentional punishment, and it feels so disconnecting. And I know for you, sex is about more than sex. When I talk with couples about the needs that are met through having sex, men share that it feels connecting and supportive and safe and so many other beautiful, valid needs that get met. It's not just sex. Men can feel super helpless when it comes to this sign because they've usually brought it up so many times and it doesn't go well. The good news is when you shift from talking about sex, intimacy, touch, and start pouring into connection, building that foundation of appreciation and love, healing hurts, current and old hurts, then glimmers of sex and intimacy, they usually start coming back. It doesn't usually start with just jumping into talking about sex. It's so much deeper. And the even better news is that when one person goes all in on the right things to build that loving foundation, the whole relationship changes. At the end of this video, I will share the video that I made to show you how to go all in, whether you're the husband or the wife. Ladies, if you recognized yourself in any of these signs in your marriage, one or many of the signs, I know it might feel discouraging, overwhelming. I totally get that. It makes so much sense. No one wants any confirmation that they're anywhere close to roommate territory. And the truth is, these are major growth opportunities. And you are watching this video right now, so you can actually do something about it rather than let it carry on. Remember that superpowered appreciation that I mentioned earlier? This is exactly why I created this. It is not just saying, thanks for emptying the dishwasher, thanks for putting gas in the car. This is, again, a specific framework that helps you break through roommate vibes and into creating connection. This quick guide, free guide, shows you exactly how to do this. Even if things feel awkward or distant right now, it literally starts rewiring your brain for gratitude, appreciation, and joy, and your husband's too, even if he's not doing it. It causes upward spirals in your relationship. What most women find is that their husbands start sharing appreciation with them and things just feel better and better. So just comment super or grab it in the description box below. I have got you. So your intentional action is to check in with these signs, and if any of them resonate, make this a choice point. You get to choose to take a step toward the relationship you love with your husband and a step away from the kind of relationship that you don't want with him. Grabbing the superpowered appreciation is a huge step and it's free. Just comment super below. And the video on the screen is what I was talking about. It outlines the 4 areas to dive into to really build that foundation of love and trust and connection. This is exactly where I started after me and my partner broke up and got back together. You have got this. I am sending so much love into your day. Remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. So let's have a super intentional week.